Today, as we speak, there were a bunch of people, not that many, at Jivanji, anti-femicide protesters that got tear gassed today. So is the government really doing an anti-femicide plan now?
Is it possible to jump on that and use them, as you say they use you?
Will they allow it?
I mean, you go in strategically.
I think there is a narrative error that we are making here. You see, the government is us. The Constitution makes us the sovereign.
Say louder. Chukua hii mic.
The government is us. The Constitution dictates that we are the sovereign people. That was the paradigm shift from the previous Constitution. Now we have all the gears. You understand? And so everything that the government is doing, should be geared towards ensuring that the sovereign is living a life of human dignity. You understand? So when we surrender and say that the government can do this, can do that, then we are surrendering that the government is not us. And so if the government is us, we now have to care who we are voting for. We have to care what bills are being passed. We have to care about our fellow Kenyans, you know, because I realize that, for example, if I come from this ethnic community, I don't really care about what happens to that ethnic community until it happens to me. But if we recognize everyone's dignity, then we have to care about everyone else. And so now we have to surrender us. I mean, we have to now give ourselves out there to vie for office, to participate in public affairs, and not surrender and say the government is doing that, the government is doing that. In fact, the government has been able to really undermine the Constitution since we got the new Constitution. It's been infringement by fractions. You understand? We got constitutional commissions that were given powers. Right now, no one is talking about them. Where we were given powers to petition courts, but now we're starting to give up on that. We give up, they win. That is the answer. And when I say they, I mean us, because we are government also. So how do we make sure that our office, I mean our issues are being discussed? How do we change the narrative, for example? When we hear about, for example, abductions vis-a-vis arrests, has anyone now started interrogating that? What does it mean to be arrested, and how are arrests carried out according to the law? In terms of freedom of expression, now we have the Cybercrimes Act, and I'm in court, in the Court of Appeal, really fighting against that Section 22 and 23, which criminalizes publishing false information, right? Yeah. But it's only when it is people speaking against government. Yet government publishes false information daily. In fact, I remember there's an NTV story about DCI using pictures of a protest about 5 years ago to arrest people last year. You know, that is now really fake news. Yet, if you do that, you are arrested. Another thing about that law is that if you look at who has been arrested, it's always a person speaking truth to power. It's not really people talking about other things, I mean their own civil things or private things. It's always someone who's speaking truth to power, someone speaking against a minister, a president, a women rep, an important person in society. Yeah.
I mean, I think Dr. Mugambi can now hear us, and if you can, just clear your throat. Unaweza hutubia wananchi, Mheshimiwa Dr. Mugambi? If you can, just giving you a few seconds before I hand it over to Grace here. She wanted to kind of respond to what was raised. You have a mic, and is it on? As we wait on Dr. Mugambi, I want you really to bring in the historical perspective in terms of there's what has happened, but there's what has led to this. And you could dig as far back as you can, given your research hat that you're wearing this evening, and also as Secretary, Data Privacy and Governance Society of Kenya.
Thank you. I just wanted to also quickly point out, and it's something that's now becoming part of our history, that in the past, public services were provided for by government. For example, my friends who are at home now watching from their blankets because it's late, and they're almost sleeping. Back in the day, even telecommunication services came from KPTC, Kenya Post and Telecommunications Company, because it is the government that provided these services. But today, these services are coming from private sector, for example, Safaricom. That does not take away the public aspect of the services. And so nobody should feel shy calling for Safaricom to be accountable, because as much as it is a sort of private company, it's still, very much owned by the state, and its origin is that it was actually a state-owned company. It's serving a public role, and like Alphonse has said, there are so many public aspects to it that there's a lot of public interest. So Safaricom should actually be held to account for all the hours where internet was not available. Same way we call out Kenya Power when there's no power. In fact, they should go as far as refunding people for the losses that were incurred. And there are so many studies that have shown that there's actual economic loss when service as important as the internet is shut down. Yeah. And I just also wanted to point out something that Hilda had talked about when she was talking about the types of shutdowns, and say that we are witnessing an evolution. In 2016, when Uganda were having their other election, they keep repeating the same the same election where they know the result. But during one of those elections, they had a total internet shutdown. What does that mean? That even if your significant other was in Uganda and you normally communicated using the internet, maybe Skype or WhatsApp, at that point you could not communicate using the internet. Why? They were completely shut off. And it brought up this whole question of, is there one switch where the government can switch off the internet? It turns out, no, there's no one switch. It is actually the companies that are ordered to shut off the internet. And so that is why companies are so important in this aspect. So,
Kabla uendelee na hiyo history, there's something she brought up, that your conversation is separation. Do you think it's something to pursue, or it's an inevitability in terms of separation of how much the government can be involved in these private companies that are providing this essential service?
I think right now we are all moving towards, we've been forced to open the market and have private companies providing public services. But the actual reality is, in cases like Kenya and anywhere else in Africa where they opened the markets, it is still the government that is sort of running the show. So everywhere you go in Africa, there's either a monopoly, a duopoly, or a company with significant market share in all the countries in Africa. So there's always one point of where you can shut off communication services, which is problematic in the whole continent, because we don't have real competition where consumers can all say, you're a bad company, you're shutting us down, we are going to the next company.
Kate, I think we'll be opening it to the audience in a bit, but because I still want to get more from our panelists
Can
here.
I quickly finish one point?
I also want to segue and ask that he joins us on this other part here. Representative as well